and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm so happy to have you. So my previous subscribers, welcome back to the channel. So for today's video in particular, we're going to be talking about and discussing what happened in Los Angeles in terms of the protest against ICE. We're also going to talk about the National Guard, Trump, Gavin Newsom, and a whole bunch more, including martial law. So this video is going to be a multi-sectional video, so there's going to be a lot of moving parts here, so just kind of hang on as much as you can. I'm going to try to guide you throughout the whole process. So it's not going to be confusing in any way. We're just going to go along in a pattern which things happen. So much just happened during this protest. This video is more sort of a blind reading, if you will. I know the general basis of it based off the headlines and stuff like that, because I want to be able to read independent of my own opinions. So this is how I do most of my tarot card reading in this video. This video will be none different. I do actually have written down some keynotes or some topics that I want to touch upon, just to be able to help guide me throughout the whole thing, because I'm not going to remember once I'm in the zone. I'm not going to be able to come up with questions because I might not remember it as Celestial Chris Tarot. Anyway, besides the point, this video is being recorded on none other than Tuesday, June 10th at 11:33 a.m. Eastern Standard Time as of when I'm recording this specific video. Again, this is Tuesday, June 10th at 11:33 a.m. Eastern Standard Time as of when I'm recording this video. A lot has happened since the last time I recorded, which was on Thursday of last week. So we have a lot to get through today. This video is just for entertainment purposes only, for educational purposes only as well. If you want to help out the channel grow, you can do so by liking, commenting, subscribing, hitting the bell icon, engaging with the content. Watching this video longer than normal really help boost out the algorithm. And for those of you guys who have done just that for Community Spotlight, YouTube want to recognize for this week, for those of you guys who are brand new, so a lot of you guys are actually new to this list, it's called Community Spotlight, which I do every Monday, every Tuesday, right? And so let's say a little gratitude and appreciation to all of you guys who have actively participated. Right, so we have here Atonia A, MDH, we have here Dennis Thomas, Pat Turner Jefferson, and Search for Truth. Thank you all you guys for participating. If you're not on that list, do not worry. YouTube updates it regularly, but I only do it on Tuesdays and Mondays when I do announce that. But anyway, beside the point, thank you all of you guys who have been actively participating. It really helped out the channel. Greatly appreciate it. I have not really responded to a lot of comments or emails at all. I have not answered my emails in about a month and a half. So definitely give me a break there. But I am going to be going back into the comment section, answering a lot of comments that I have missed over the course of like 4 weeks. I've been kind of busy. It's summer blockbuster move time. Plus my job is getting hit with tariffs. It's the whole thing. Besides the point. Anyway, let's begin. And let's go from there. Let's find out what is going on. And we'll see where we're at now. Alright. If you want to donate, the donation link is in the description below. It's up to you. I don't care. Like, it's not really, I'm not trying to force you to donate. You're not obligated to donate. But there's that. And there's a Blue Sky account and a Facebook group if you want to be notified when I do post and upload. Alright, let's go ahead. I hate that this intro is already way too long, even for me. Okay, so let's find out what is going on in the LA protest. The first thing I want to ask is, because this was something that was very particular, but in regard to like Hitler, right? Hitler did this. He used either back in 1933, 1930, he used a certain protest to essentially consolidate power by using a reason to enforce a restriction on people's rights. The question is, I'm asking in this specific question, was this a setup? That's what we're going to find out right now. Alright, so Spirit Angels tell me, was the Los Angeles protest versus ICE officers who Trump is using to deport Americans and do bad things, can you tell me whether or not this is telling us as a society that this was set up on purpose for Donald Trump to consolidate power and to enforce military against Americans? I'm hearing it was, but it's not what we expect, if that makes any sense. Okay, so here's what I'm getting from my from my ear, like my right ear, which is clear audience for those of you guys who are new. My right ear, I'm hearing it is because we're asking, is this a setup, right? We're asking, is this a setup as a reason to basically roll back people's rights? Yeah, saying there was an intention here, but it wasn't exactly what we were thinking. There's a little bit something else that's behind the scenes. There's a hidden intention that we're not aware of. On the right side, though, what I heard from this car is it is telling me that it's not necessarily to set this whole thing up, but it's set up to challenge the rule of law. That's what I'm hearing. This was a setup to challenge the rule of law. We have here the first card that comes in, and we're asking whether or not this is a setup. We have the Ace of Pentacles. And the Ace of Pentacles, it's handing a gift to something. A gift. But you knew exactly what button to push, and you pushed the right button, and you got the right response that you wanted in order to enable something that you've been desiring. And here is the Nine of Swords. The Nine of Swords, you're not having sleepless nights. You know, for somebody who's having this type of protest against him, he should be having this upright. But it's reversed, and it's indicating to me this was the gift that they were wanted. This was a gift that they needed. That this is a gift. This was a setup. This is exactly what they wanted. They pressed the right button. They got the response that they wanted. The intention here was to basically challenge the rule of law and see how far the law would go to protect the people who buttons were pushed. Does that make any sense? Or will the rule of law protect those who pushed the buttons, who did the pushing? That's the question here. The question is, if the rule of law sides with those who push the button, the rule of law is diminished. The power is completed. It's depleted. It's done. It's gone. But if the rule of law sides with those whose buttons have been pushed, then it just essentially means that the rule of law is upheld and that is in opposition to 45 and his agenda. We do have the Three of Swords reversed. The Three of Swords reversed is indicating to me not as much as a betrayal, but the system is not done yet. The system is not over. The system is fighting. That's what it means. We do have justice in reverse. This is the Republican Party in reverse. Like, the system is still fighting. They are not willing to obey. And that's part of the thing that we're starting to see right now, that they're not willing to obey. They're not willing to obey. Because why should you obey the rule of law if the rule of law cannot even hold those accountable? Does that make any sense to you? So that's essentially what I'm getting in terms of this. So the question is, are we asking, was the protest a setup and a showdown purposely designed to put a showdown between the American people versus ICE? The question is, and the answer is, essentially, it was, but it was intentional. And the intention behind all this was to dismantle the rule of law. But first, to see how the rule of law will defend people, or whether or not it will defend the system that is creating. Because in the end, the rule of law will disappear if it defends the wrong opposition, right? The wrong party. That is what we're getting here. Now, and you know, as you all know, I'm a YouTube channel, and I don't really side with the Democrats. I don't side with the Republicans. I don't side with anybody. I'm willing to question everybody's intention, energy, and all that type of stuff. The good thing is here that although Gavin Newsom was being threatened by Donald Trump to be arrested, I want to take a quick look and see what is planned alongside Gavin Newsom with Donald Trump. Because as you all know, you may have remembered that Gavin Newsom has been cozying up to Donald Trump, trying to move from more sort of progressive wing, more back into the center, a more moderate Democrat type of candidate. He wants to prepare a presidential run. What I want to know is, and as we have talked about before, that there will be a Democratic version of a Trump. The question that I want to know is, was this a setup, or was Gavin Newsom taken by surprise? And if so by surprise, was this a surprise setup? Was he like told that, oh, we're not going to tell you what we're going to do, we're just going to do something, and it's going to catch you off guard, but that's the intention. We're going to find out in real lifetime right now, what is Gavin Newsom's real intention? And what is Donald Trump's real intention with Gavin Newsom? That's what we're going to find out right now in this video. Okay. Because remember, if you look at anybody, just because they appear a certain way, just because they are a certain way, doesn't mean that they are innocent. Just because they have a Democrat by their name doesn't mean that they're a good person. Just want to make sure you guys know that. Like, just because they have a D by their name doesn't mean you have to support them. It's okay to criticize them. If you have an inability to criticize people within your own party, then you yourself are in a cult. Alright, so let's go ahead. Let's take a look at Gavin Newsom. Let's put him up against Donald Trump. Let's find out. Spiritual Angel tell me Governor Gavin Newsom of California. Governor Gavin Newsom of California put him against Donald Trump, the President of the United States. Tell me about the intention here. What is about the intention of Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, during the Los Angeles protest that's currently ongoing with the National Guard, ICE, and people protesting against that? Can you tell me a little bit more about this information spirit? Gavin Newsom? Tell me about Gavin Newsom's intention. Who is Gavin Newsom really? Okay. Okay, so this is Gavin Newsom's energy. Let's go ahead and let's take a look at President Donald Trump. Okay, that was a lot. So this is the these two cards that came out here is the overall environment. This is the card that represents Donald Trump. Let's find out more about his energy. Okay, is there any challenges to Donald Trump? Okay, there is a challenge here, the challenge is between these two. So this is the card that represents Donald Trump and his relationship with Gavin Newsom. And this is the relationship with Gavin Newsom with Donald Trump. So this is the both sides. This is the best way for us to be able to really hone in on what is their original intention with each other and whether or not there was something planned or not. That's what we're going to find out right now. So for Governor Gavin Newsom, we start to look at all of the information. His energy of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 of swords here. The 8 of swords is going on the right side, which means they're just heading in the future. So there is a tension of restriction, there's a threat. I do feel very much so that there is an intention here that the relationship between him and Donald Trump is going to possibly put him in jail. It's possibly going to put him in arrest, which is why he is being locked up, being wrapped around these metal bars and wrapped around this type of seal and not able to see what is exactly coming for him in the future. So he is, in a way, taken by surprise. We do also have here as well as underneath all this, that's the challenge to him. We have the Knight of Pentacles. There was an offer. There was an offer that was moving ahead at the time in which it took place. So there is an offer here that he offered to Donald Trump. So there was an offer here. There is that more of that conservative, moderate approach to try to get him to side with Gavin Newsom on certain issues. Right? So there was an offer that was currently underway at the time in which Gavin Newsom was taken by surprise. We do also have here as well as we have the Ace of Swords. And the Ace of Swords is pretty interesting because the Ace of Swords is normally meaning the defeat of an incumbent, removing somebody from a position of power and in their political reign. This is telling me here that he alone, Donald Trump, won't be able to essentially diminish the power of Governor Gavin Newsom, and his control and ability on the people. That doesn't feel like Donald Trump has that ability to do that, to restrict him. The same way it goes to Donald Trump, right? However, we do have here a period of darkness coming towards the relationship between Gavin Newsom and Donald Trump. So it does not indicate to us that the plan, whatever they agreed to in terms of their offer, whatever the offer that Gavin Newsom gave to Donald Trump, we don't know exactly what is going on yet. We don't know what is going on because it doesn't mention it through any of the other cards. But we did get the Hermit card reversed, which indicates this sense of dark style energy, this darkness that's coming his way. Now this is a relationship when we pin Gavin Newsom up against President Donald Trump. We start to look at Donald Trump at a more deeper level and find out who is Donald Trump when it comes to being put right next to and alongside Gavin Newsom. Well, the first card that we get is the Ten of Swords. And the Ten of Swords is a very interesting card because this indicates betrayal, right? So although there was an intention here, there was a plan that was being put forth, a plan, an idea. Because remember, we said an offer was being made to Donald Trump. And I said at the time, I don't know exactly what is going on in terms of the offer, because it doesn't mention anything that happened. but there was an offer by Gavin Newsom to Donald Trump. But when we look at the same card in the same placement, we have the 10 of swords reversed. And the 10 of swords reversed indicates to us that there was a betrayal. That means the plan has ended. The offer, whatever the offer was that Gavin Newsom gave to Donald Trump, has been diminished. It has been removed. It has been denied. It has been canceled. It has been voided. Right? That is essentially what that means. When we start to look at the Ace of Swords, removing Gavin Newsom from his position as governor, it's not going to be successful. But what can be successful is pretty interesting. We have the, hold on one second. You can't do that with like a smaller card.
What?
You can't do that with like a
well, then don't do it in the kitchen.
Okay, stop being rude. Anyway, so we have the 5 of cups, the 5 of coins, and the 5 of coins means essentially walking away, moving on beyond where you have to go, and that's what the Ace of Swords reverse is indicating. Although they're trying to remove Gavin Newsom from his governorship position, we do have here walking away by Donald Trump. So it doesn't necessarily mean that Donald Trump walked away from the presidency, it doesn't mean that. But it just means that he walked away from even attempting to try something, which means that Donald Trump may get defeated in the state of California. This is what this could be indicating. And we do have here, again, sometime down in the future, there will be an offer be given to Donald Trump again. So another offer will come to Donald Trump. And the question is, will Donald Trump take that offer? Will he take that bait? That's the question that is being on the mind of Donald Trump coming in the future time. But that's in the future card here, right? So we have darkness coming for Gavin Newsom in the future while we have an offer being made to Donald Trump. Right? Remember, Donald Trump was given an offer by Gavin Newsom. He betrayed Gavin Newsom because he was surprised and there was a threat of arresting him and imprisoning him. Right? This was an attempt to remove him from the governorship. There was an attempt that he's going to experience sometime in the future some period of darkness. And here you have it. You have the 10 of swords, right? The ending of an agreement between the two. Then we have the 5 of coins, walking away from a certain situation that does not serve you. And here you have a new offer coming in. It's the 4 of cups. And here we have the 10 of swords and the 5 of coins. And we have the Ace of cups. He could have had a lot going for him, for Donald Trump and Gavin Newsom, but instead he backstabbed him. So in a way, it does feel like we're already getting to the point now where we understand that Gavin Newsom was not aware of the event that took place in Los Angeles. He was not aware of it. But Donald Trump, however, there was a plan that was in place to help both parties in some way. There was some sort of something here that was not really with good intention that was planned, but it ended up being voided out anyway. And here you have it, the first card that came in. What is the overall environment and relationship between Gavin Newsom and Donald Trump? What's the environment here? We have the Queen of Pentacles. And the Queen of Pentacles is kind of coming in this position here, which means that this is coming into the fourth center. This is not something that's currently now. Something that's coming into the center. This is the Queen of Pentacles. This is money. So there's going to be some sort of threat of finances. There's going to be almost like, I feel like very much so like, you know how the United States and many countries put sanctions on countries if they don't follow certain protocol and stuff like that? It feels like there's going to be a force of money, withholding of money. I know that, again, this is not like psychic prediction in any way. If you check the news outlet, it says that California is considering withholding federal taxes because things are being slashed in the state. There's no point in giving the money up anyway. Why did the government need it? Well, we're not going to support welfare states. Right? That is what the Queen of Pentacles is saying. Right? This is not a psychic prediction. But it's saying that California, coming in the future time, is going to use money as the driving force to get certain initiatives on its side. And then we do also have here as well, we do have the 3 of Cups. I do feel like there's going to be a multinational state system that's going to use money to force a leverage on the government. So I definitely feel like it's not going to be a war of an outright war, but it's going to be a war of using finances in a way to get to the desired outcome that you seek. Right? Donald Trump is using it, so they're going to use it against Donald Trump as well. So like I said, there's going to be a battle here. I do see Donald Trump loses some, but he gets an offer. Gavin Newsom wins some, but then loses, and he goes to a period of darkness. But California, there are many states who are getting inspired by this type of activity. Okay, so that is the relationship between Gavin Newsom and Donald Trump. I wanted to take a quick look and see if there was intention or like a setup or something like that in terms of maybe this was planned to maybe help Gavin Newsom become president, but that doesn't seem to be the case, which is pretty good in its way. But we did also get information when we started reading our question about Gavin Newsom's possible arrest. We're going to take a quick look and see if he is going to get arrested. You know, we're going to take a look at that, see what that looks like. Remember, he said he wasn't going to arrest political opponents. Now he is. So let's go ahead, let's take a look at that. We have here Kipper deck. That's the deck that we're going to use. It does have the imprisonment deck. Imprisonment card in here, so this would be the perfect card to use. So Spiritual Angel tell me for Gavin Newsom here, would Gavin Newsom be imprisoned by Donald Trump or anybody within his administration because of what's happening in Los Angeles versus ICE? Will Governor Gavin Newsom be arrested by the administration? Will Governor Gavin Newsom be arrested by the administration? Will Governor Gavin Newsom be arrested by the Trump administration? Amanda, stop it. Not funny. Nicole, stop. Not funny. Okay, so we have a card that flipped. We have imprisonment. So yeah, I do feel like there is going to be an imprisonment for Gavin Newsom actually, because we have here the first card that came in as expectation. So this is expected for him to be imprisoned. So yeah, he was. He is going to be. It feels very much like that is where the energy is heading. So yeah, at least that is pretty much straightforward. We kind of know where that's going. That's not a surprise in any particular fashion. Okay, so we covered Gavin Newsom's arrest. We covered Gavin Newsom versus Donald Trump, President Trump. We talked about whether or not the protest was a setup. It was not. Now let's talk about what's it called? I kind of want to talk about the Los Angeles protest versus ICE. Just kind of like get like maybe a few cards on that. Spiritual Angels, tell me about Los Angeles protest versus ICE officers. Okay, bottom of the deck, top of the deck. Okay. So this is interesting. When you start to look at the information on a deeper level and find out what is really going on in the United States, it makes a lot of sense. So the first card that comes in reverse is the Two of Wands. The Two of Wands reverse means essentially looking overseas, looking ahead, looking forward, right? Looking forward, right? Looking overseas. This is looking inward. This is means looking domestically, looking what's happening inward, right? It's saying that something is going on domestically, not internationally. This is how people are seeing. If people are not seeing from the outside perspective, other countries are looking from within. What is going on in the United States? This is where we're at right now. We have here with the 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, the 9 of Wands reverse. The 9 of Wands reverse is a very interesting card because it indicates that there is resistance, there is fatigue. There is a lack of fatigue, right? Because people feel betrayed. They feel like they've been lied to, they've been misled, misguided. Right? That is what the Three of Swords is telling us. The Three of Swords is telling us that there's a sense of misguiding feeling, inability, unable to really push ahead where you want to go, where you have to be. We do also have here as well, we do have the Seven of Wands here. And the Seven of Wands reverse indicates to us, although that there is this sense of pushback, there is not as much pushback as one may think. But the administration needs to be able to basically do heavy propaganda on the American people to try to get them on ICE's side rather than on the American people's side. This is represented by the King of Swords. It's the incumbent. These are the officers. These are the federal workers. This is the King of Swords. The thing is, the people are not pushing for this. They're pushing against this. Right? That's the intention here. They're pushing against the federal workers, which is ICE. We do have here, there's a lack of fatigue because they're willing to fight, which is represented by the Knight of Swords. They're willing to fight for what they want. They're willing to move ahead, and they're going to fight with them. That's why the guy is facing to the person two wands reversed because he is fighting from within. Right? He is not fatigued. This is not something that's going to be one and done. This is something that we're going to experience time and time again throughout the country because people are not done fighting. This is not fatigue. This is not the time to be fatigued. And that is very much the energy that is telling me. However, when it comes to the federal work, because when you start to look at the cards here, I didn't plan it this way, but this is how it came out. Now, these three cards represent the people. These three cards represent the federal workers, and this is the card that represents the environment, the clash between the two people, the ICE officers, and we have the American people. Underneath here, the Seven of Wands reversed is that they were told not to initiate. However, they initiated anyway. And here you have is the Lover's card. The Lover's card is saying this is not with good intention. So the people who are representing this group, this formality here, this federal workers, they're not with good intention. They're not with good order. So they're going to do things that are not very humanitarian-like. They're not going to do things with this sense of humanity. They're going to do things that are against the norms of humanity. But it's a full representation of authoritarianism. That is very much the energy that we're getting here. So this is the relationship between what happened in Los Angeles and what happened with ICE officers. Okay. Now we also do have here as well is I want to take a look at the National Guard overreach. As you all know, Donald Trump has sent the National Guard in despite not getting approval from the governor. The last time this happened was in 1965. 1965 with Barry Goldwater or somebody as governor of Alabama to prevent. This was by Lyndon B. Johnson to prevent what to call it, the government from basically the federal workers and the people within the state of Alabama from abusing civil rights activists. Like that was the last time it was ever done because obviously the governor was a white supremacist and so he was not ever going to agree to that. However, in this aspect here, he overridden the governor and sent in the National Guard without the governor's approval, which like we said earlier in today's video, Gavin Newsom was not aware of. We confirmed that he was not aware of this. So Spirits Angel, tell me about the National Guard overreach by President Donald Trump, who overwritten the rule of law for Governor Gavin Newsom, totally bypassed him and sent in the National Guard. What is your opinion on this, Spirit? Okay, so underneath the bottom of the deck here, we have justice. Remember we talked about the rule of law earlier, like trying to essentially talk about it in a way like trying to basically see how far the rule of law can go. That's essentially what it is, right? This is the Justice card. This is the Republican Party. See how far you can take it. The top of the deck here is represented by restriction. It's the Eight of Swords reverse. This is saying that, okay, so though you can't be 100% restricted, we can restrict you in some way. And here you with the Emperor. This is the people. This is the people. This is liberty. We can restrict your liberty. And that's the intention here. We can restrict you. Right? We are willing and more than happy to overstep the rule of law in order to get the outcome that we seek. Right? That is what I'm getting. We have here, when we talk about the National Guard being sent in to Los Angeles, the first card that comes in is the Queen of Cups reversed. The Queen of Cups reversed is a lack of containment. Now, if you all know, this is the card that represents a woman with a cup with a lid on it. And she's watching it very closely. This is the Queen of Cups. Keeping an eye on things. This is reverse. Making sure that things don't get contained. Making sure that things get out of hand in order to institute what we just talked about, the restriction of rights, the restriction of liberty. This is a setup, like we talked about earlier in the video. This is a complete setup. The intention was not to quell what's going on here. It's to enforce what's going on, but to enforce an opposition to obey. So basically saying here that they want to make sure that you obey, so they're going to send these people in to force you to obey whether you want to or not. Right? This is what this card represents here. It's coming down pretty hard and striking very hard. Coming down very quick, fast, and very much with determination. The National Guard was used to intimidate rather than to quell any sort of dispute that is currently ongoing in Los Angeles. This is what the intention was. The intention was not to calm them down. The intention was to raise the temperature to be able to lower the ability of people's liberties to be free. And this will be used as an excuse to do just that. And we have the strength, using the strength of the military, and stroking it. That's what I'm getting. Using the military and stroking the military is what it feels like. It feels very much like, in a way, that they're using the military in its highest formality, that they are using it. Stop it! It's not funny. So we have using the military in a very specific way to get the desired outcome by using all force necessary to be able to receive that. So when I say stroking the military, I mean stroking it of all its strength, stroking it of all its ability, and using every single ounce of it. That is what the strength card is indicating. We also do have here as well, we have the Four of Wands reversed, and the Four of Wands reversed is meaning like the capital or the government, right? It's reversed for a very particular reason. This is telling you in a way that this is not a government that will function anymore. This is not a functional government. This is not a government that respects state rights versus federal rights. This is the end of state versus federal, and this is the beginning of a new governmental agency and a new governmental ideology. This is what this represents. This Four of Wands reversed represents a new way forward for the United States. A new way forward is not the system of justice, not the balance of government, right? We have the president, we have Congress, we have the Senate, we have the governorship, all those. This is saying that that all ends. And this is saying all the power is now no longer in the hands of divided government, but it's in the hands of a united government under one person. And that is what this Four of Wands reverse indicates. It indicates exactly that. It indicates exactly that. That the governmental systems are collapsing, and that the ability and the checks and balances are entirely eroded completely. Then we have here as well is we have the Knight of Pentacles reversed. Moving ahead, not waiting any longer, just push ahead. So what does this mean for the National Guard? It means that they no longer are on the side of the people. They're no longer on the side of the governor. It means that the National Guard would be used at the full direction of the president and not the people, not the governor. This is what this card means. It means the National Guard no longer is at the direct direction of the governor in any way, in any form, which means the National Guard could be used against the people, including the governor. That is what that indicates. The Knight of Pentacles reversed indicates it's being used against people. So that's the intention of the National Guard. The top of the deck here is again restriction. The bottom of the deck, well, what's the bottom of the deck here? We have justice. The intent is to restrict justice by further amplifying the information and further amplifying the temperature to be able to get the desired outcome. This is the Hail Mary that the 45 administration wants in order to enact the next phase of his agenda. Okay, so we just talked about Gavin Newsom's arrest, Gavin Newsom possibly teaming up with Donald Trump. We talked about the Los Angeles protest versus ICE officers. We talked about the National Guard overreach. We talked about whether or not this was a setup. We're going to talk about now Trump studying Marines. What's the military now? Now we got into the phase where we're no longer just talking about the National Guard. Now we're talking about the next level, those with actual real weapons, like guns and stuff. He's sending in the Marines. Let's take a look at that. Spirit Angel Tommy Donald Trump, President Donald Trump, sending in Marines into Los Angeles because of protests against ICE officers. We have the Hanged Man. This is not a good card you want to have, especially right next to the Justice card. So remember how I said that they have a choice to whether or not they want to be on the American people's side or the military side, or those whoever they represent. So they have a choice to be on the American people's side or the president's side. Where they swore and took an oath to defend and protect the American people, but time and time again had consistently shown that they are not on the side of the people. And there's a lot of reasons for this, like propaganda, brainwashing, all those type of things. All those things are in the military. The military actually engages in this type of behavior. So again, you cannot blame somebody who is a part of the military. You can only blame those at the top who uses the systems and uses certain experiments on the soldiers, innocent soldiers like your sons, your daughters, your brothers, your fathers, your mothers, your grandparents, whatever. They use certain experiments on them to make them act and behave a certain way, right? That's essentially what they do. This, though, is telling me here in this particular aspect, when we start to go into a deeper note on finding out why did Donald Trump stand in the Marine, we talked about in other videos, what if the military was put up against the American people versus the military? How would they respond? If you want to watch that video, I'll put the end of the video at the end of this video and also in the description below. It is highly important that you go ahead and watch it. But in this video, although we got different information, this video is also giving an update on those specific Marines. How are they going to respond? Well, the first card we got in is the Hanged Man. The Hanged Man is to turn things upside down. The goal is to, again, escalate the temperature further. That's the intention of the Marines. It's to escalate things further. Because when you're sending the Marines, when you're sending the military against the people will presume that you're trying to declare an insurrection against the American people, invoke the Insurrection Act, right? We also have many videos on martial law. We've done videos on Insurrection Act. We've done a whole bunch of things, the military versus the American people. We've done all these videos. I'll put the link in the description to all of them. What we do have here is raising the temperature hotter, right? We have the Justice card. Again, the intention is, although the people are being sent in to calm them, the real intention is to raise the temperature. This is the Justice card. The Justice card is to be that conservative approach, to use it in a very conservative manner, right? To get the desired outcome. Because the first card that came in, we have the Hanged Man reverse, things being turned upside down, using it as a way to raise the temperature with conservative opinion, conservative side views. Then you have the Page of Wands. And the Page of Wands, the first time I saw this card in this reading, this card told me, because the people, the Marines, are not on the side of the people. They are on the side of the president. They are looking at the new leader. You guys all know this card if you have been with me for quite some time. This card indicates to me a new leader, represents watching a new leader, someone new coming in, new growth, new opportunity. This is the Marine. They are looking at the wands, and they're not looking at the ground. They're not in tune with nature. They're in tune with humanity. They're in tune with the president. They are told to look here. They're told to, oh, if you do this, you'll get a little something in return. Get a little bit green, which means that these are Marines who are getting high paid money to be on the side of the president and to not betray the president. And that is what this Page of Wands is representing. The Page of Wands is representing, essentially in hindsight, it represents the Marines are on the side of the president. And here you have is reverse. You have what is reverse here? The Marine, we have the 9 of coins reverse. This is great fortune. It's reverse. This is not a great fortune, right? This is not going to go well. I don't know what's on the news right now. I haven't checked what's on the news. I have no idea what's going on as of today. But I know what was happening yesterday. We do have the 7 of Swords reverse. The 7 of Swords reverse is not walking away without something. Not walking away without something. And this is essentially saying they're not walking away without something. I don't know what that means, but they're not walking away without something. And I'm also getting as well the 9 of Pentacles reverse, and we have not walking away without something. This is the Great Fortune card here. The question is, can some people break through to people? That's the question that remains. If they can break through, the control of 45 starts to diminish. And here you have it, the Hierophant, which is represented by the administration. The Hierophant, the control, right? The control diminishes. And however, although the control can diminish with some people defecting, majority of them will not defect. And because of that, this will be a win for the administration. Okay. Alright, so now that we know about the Marines being used against the American people, and we know their intention is to essentially not be on the side of the American people in any particular fashion, any particular way, we talked about the National Guard overreach. Now let's take a look at the Insurrection Act, and then we'll finish off with martial law and then we'll end the video. Because this is a bit of a very interesting video. Very sad what's going on. Okay, let's take a look. I want to read to you what the Insurrection Act is so you are aware of what it is. Insurrection Act. Now remember, the Insurrection Act has been through some modifications, so just remember the modifications can be adjusted in the likeness of the president. The president can change the definition of certain things. He could put protesters in the Insurrection Act that wasn't there prior, and he can use it against the protesters. So be mindful that just because something says a certain thing doesn't mean it cannot be amended to fit the new agenda. Okay, so let's see what the Insurrection Act. Now, the reason why we're probably talking about this because Donald Trump has been considering invoking the Insurrection Act during this process. It says here the Insurrection Act is a U.S. law, primarily codified at 10 U.S.C. 251-255, that allows the president to deploy military forces, including the National Guard, within the United States to suppress rebellion. Oh, so he did invoke it. He did invoke the Insurrection Act. Oh my God. Okay, so the Insurrection Act is U.S. law primarily codified that allows the president to deploy military forces, including the National Guard, within the United States to suppress rebellions or other domestic unrest, or enforce the law in certain situations. It's often cited when federal intervention is needed to restore order or enforce the federal law where local authorities are unable to do so. The historical context. The Insurrection Act, originally enacted in 1807, has been amended and refined over time, particularly after the Civil War, to address rebellions and enforce civil rights. The purpose: the Act provides the President with the authority to use military force to address situations where domestic unrest makes it impractical for federal government to enforce its laws through ordinary judicial proceedings, which is not exactly what's been going on because it's against those in ICE who are not using the judicial branch of due process and enforcing it on those people. The limitation of this act. While it grants the president significant power, the Insurrection Act is subject to certain limitations. It typically requires the request of a state governor or legislature, which means that he did not get, he did not get an agreement or a yes from the governor of California. We talked about this in the video. It typically, here's the key word here, typically, doesn't mean it's mandatory, but he did not get it. It typically requires the request of a state governor or legislature, or finding that the state authorities are unable to enforce the law. Which in this aspect, he found the loophole. The loophole here was state authorities are unable to enforce this law. The exception to Praxe Comitatus. The Insurrection Act is a key exception to the Praxe Comitatus Act, which generally prohibits federal military forces from engaging in civilian law enforcement. The historical invocation. The Insurrection Act has been invoked throughout history in various situations, including labor disputes like the Pullman strike, racial unrest like the Detroit riots, and civil rights enforcement like integration public schools. The recent discussion Insurrection Act has been a topic of considerable debate and discussion, particularly in the context of protest and unrest. So, that was a lot of information. It feels very much so it feels like information is saying that he invoked the Insurrection Act, but he didn't, because it was kind of conflicting information. He found a loophole. There was a loophole here based on how it sounded. So maybe he didn't invoke it. But let's go ahead. Let's take a look at the Insurrection Act. Now we do have some military as well. We have some election cards in here. Ignore the election cards. We'll just take them out of the read-in. They're not really needed, unless it's really specified otherwise. Alright, so the way it works is if when a card is reversed, it means to flip the card over. That's essentially what it means. Alright, so Spirit Angels, tell me about the Insurrection Act in Los Angeles. Will has Donald Trump declared, or has already declared insurrection and used the Insurrection Act against the American people? Has Donald Trump invoked that? Has Donald Trump invoked that spirit? Okay, so we have popular leader, tight race, Democratic president, electoral margin, presently early voting, high turnout. This makes no sense. Why this have to do with 2028 is beyond me. We have here, we have civil rights in reverse. We have discrimination, right? Voting rights, slavery. Top of the deck here, we have the witch trials, biased court trials. And that is the witch trials here. So we're trying to act like the Insurrection Act being invoked, right? We have a popular leader. Well, here's the electoral college margin: 56 to 44, 302, 320 to 356, 217 to 233 House seats. This is electoral margin. This is the electoral margin. Here we have a tight race. Democratic president. We have here electoral margin again. It's 230 to 249 electoral votes, 200 and 217 House seats, 53 to 47 Senate seats. Oh, okay. Okay, I think I understand it. So the popular leader was saying that this was the 2024 election, right? It says here a popular leader from the state of California. I guess it's talking about California for some reason, but a popular leader. This was supposed to be the electoral margin. It was to be 320 to 356 electoral votes, 217 to 333 House seats. This is supposed to be the margin for the Democrats here, the margin for the Democrats. And then obviously 56 to 44 was going to be more so for the Republican, but it was going to be pretty close in terms of the Senate. However, we ended up getting instead with the tight race under a Democratic president, a tight race under a Democratic president. Something would change. The Democrats instead, here, gap between 200 and, well, this is telling you this is the Republican margin here, but this is the Republican. They were supposed to get 230 to 249 electoral votes, 200 to 217 House seats, and 53 to 47 U.S. Senate seats, right? We have here the White House was not supposed to be Republican, right? But instead, it was supposed to be this. It was supposed to be removed under the impeachment trial in the 1980s to the 90s, the Southern strategy, the technology boom, and the Soviet Union versus the United States. This is the impeachment trial. This is what was supposed to happen. It's what would have been on reality had the impeachment trial occurred. We do also have here early voting, high turnout. This also could very well indicate the 2028 election. We don't know exactly yet. But I don't get any indication about the Insurrection Act once again. So we're going to take a look and use a different card for this. We're going to use this deck, American Eclipse. Okay. Spirits and Angels, tell me about the Insurrection Act. What did Donald Trump use that Insurrection Act already, or is he waiting to use the Insurrection Act? We have the Seven of Swords. Again, how is it coming in the state of California? There's something here with housed energy. Came up in the other reading that we just did. Then we have housed again, the Seven of Swords here. We have here the Eight of Cups. We have here something being cooked. Something being cooked here. There's opposition here. There's opposition to this because we're asking about the Insurrection Act, invoking the Insurrection Act. Right? We have here opposition. There's an opposition to Donald Trump. There is a clear opposition. This is the Seven of Swords with a clear opposition. And we have the Ace of Cups. Something being cooked. Something hasn't come to fruition yet. This is where we are right now. This is the Ace of Cups. The Democrats are cooking something. Something's going to be out in the open soon. Here you have it, the fire. The fire in reverse. Something being cooked, but not yet. This is in the red state. This is in the California state. This is the fire card. This is going to take place during fire season. I don't know when that is in California, but they're telling me here it's going to take place around fire season. And the Democrats are cooking right now, but it's going to take place in the fire season of California, and there's going to be clear opposition. There's going to be a leader that's going to emerge, a clear opposition to him, and there's going to be someone who's also going to be in charge of the military. And here you have is the Ace of Swords. So this is the Ace of Swords. There is an opposition. There is going to be a fight. There is going to be that battle, if you will. We do also have here as well as we have the Ten of Cup Diverge, which means this is not going to be a happy period. This is FEMA, right? This is trying to help as many people as you can during a national crisis or an environmental crisis. This is reversed. So this is going to be possibly as well. There's going to be opposition in the state of California during a national environmental disaster, or possibly as well, this could also be indicating that there could be some issue with what to call it. There could be some issue with people fighting against the administration because in this aspect here, the Tanakh Cup, although it could indicate what to call a national crisis in terms of the environment, it could also indicate as well that there is restriction in the ability for financial aid in some way. And we do also have here, we do have the Lover's card. The Lover's card is justice is not going to be on the side. This is not with the intention of love, right? This is not with the intention of love. This is saying essentially the American system does not work for us, essentially. It's going to be clear opposition here. And this is what the Tanakh Cup means. It means not working with the federal government anymore because the federal government doesn't work for us. There is a clear intention here that this could possibly indicate the very early step of a possibly state seceding, or there is a direct conflict in some way, but there is something here pinning up against the administration versus the state. This is what this indicates to us long term. So we're asking about the Insurrection Act. This feels very much so like this will be an attempt to invoke that Insurrection Act. So in a way, even though Donald Trump has done something under the Insurrection Act, he has not invoked the complete act in its entirety. He has not invoked it. Underneath the bottom of the deck, though, we do have here, we have the King of Wands reversed, bypassing Congress, not obeying the rule of law, not taking an oath of office and not obeying it. Here you have on the top, you have the Emperor. The Emperor. And here you have is the Leo card. This is going to take place around August. I assume August is the fire month based on what the cards are saying. I really don't know. So I'm going to find out right now in a second. Because I want to know when the fire month is in the state of California. Because that will really tell us some other things that's going to happen that we need to be aware of. This could take place, you know, this summer, could take place next summer. We don't necessarily know. There is no time frame for the Insurrection Act. It does not specify a time frame. Okay, let's take a look and find out when the California wildfires are, and then we will finish off with the martial law. Okay, so California fire season. Okay, so it says here California's fire season is essentially year-round, but the peak risks typically fall between late spring and early fall, with most active month being June through October in Southern California. Okay, so it could happen this month all the way through October of this year. Like I said, we don't know the timeline. We don't know the time frame. But based on this, it could either happen this year or next year or the next 2 years after that. But it's going to take place during the fire season of California, the highest peak of it, if you will. All right, so now that I've been aware and that we're told of that, let's go ahead and let's ask about martial law. Actually, I feel like a lot of you guys might not know what martial law is, so let's go ahead. Let's take a look at the martial law. Martial law. Now, like I said, I don't think he would invoke martial law because it hands the presidential power to the military, which essentially would strip him of power. Which I don't think he would ever invoke martial law unless it in some way has been amended to give him more power. Okay, so we have here martial law is a temporary suspension of normal law and civilian authority, allowing military control during emergencies like war, civil unrest, or natural disasters. It replaces civilian government with military rule, meaning policy decisions are made by military officers, laws are enforced by soldiers, and individuals accused of crimes are brought before the military tribunal. Suspension of civil authority. Martial law suspends all existing laws and civil authority, allowing military personnel to enforce orders and maintain order in an emergency. Military control. The military assumes control of an area, replacing civilian police and government officials. Military tribunal. Individuals accused of crimes are tried by military tribunals instead of civilian courts. Limited but necessary. While martial law can be a powerful tool, it's only usually imposed for a limited time and only when necessary to restore order or protect the populace in an emergency. It's not the same as the Insurrection Act. The Insurrection Act allowed the military to assist civilian authorities, not replace them, which is what martial law entails. Historical context in the U.S. Civil War, martial law was also used during the Civil War to suppress Confederate uprisings and maintain Union authority. Other instances, it's been declared in various states and localities throughout history. often in response to civil unrest, labor disputes, or natural disasters. Limited use, while martial law has been declared multiple times in the U.S., it's not common practice and is typically imposed for a specific or emergency situation. The last time we saw this happen was in Korea, right? So in South Korea, I think it was, the president tried to declare people Russian and stop that from happening, and the president got impeached. If that was to happen here, yeah. Anyway, besides the point, let's go ahead, let's take a look at martial law. This will be a martial law update, then we'll end the video because it's way too long already. Okay, so Spirits Angel, tell me about martial law. Will Donald Trump declare martial law in the United States? Will Donald Trump declare martial law in the United States based on what's currently ongoing with the Los Angeles protests versus ICE officers? Now that he already sent in the National Guard and the Marines, is Donald Trump preparing to declare martial law? Okay, let's go ahead, let's take a look. I'm hearing in my ear the rule of law has ended. Okay, so the first card that comes in, we have the 10 of Pentacles reversed. The 10 of Pentacles upright. This means historical precedent, right? This is the historical intention. So, like I said, we went over the historical context of martial law. This is saying the historical precedent, what has been used in the times of war, civil unrest, natural disaster. This is what it means. This is the 10 of coins. This is what it represents. This is the intention, though. The intention is to cause uprising, to cause problems, to quell disputes, right? That is the 5 of Wands. Reverse is the Temperance card. Can you balance it? Is the question. Can you balance that power? Can you balance that control? The thing is, we have the Queen of Wands here, the woman. There's the female here. This is the last attempt. Like I said, the patriarchy is not going to go down without a fight. It's not going to willingly hand power to a woman, right? But there is going to be that Queen of Wands here, which is indicating, that fight, that battle. And then that card that comes in is the World card. Martial law, right? Asking whether or not martial law will be declared in the United States due to this Los Angeles protest. Protest. We have the World card, right? The World is watching very closely, but you notice how only one is white and the other 3 are dark. The Lion is dark. The Ego is dark. The Taurus is dark, right? This is telling you here, this is the horn, this is your mindset, this is the mental, this is humanity, your emotional aspect. But here is your freedom. This is the last thing to go dark. The question is, if he declares martial law, that's the last thing to go dark. The ego represents the United States. And here you have it, the Queen of Swords reversed. The rule of law has ended. It's the Queen of Swords. I'm going to leave that as what you would think of it. You guys let me know in the comment section below what you think of today's video, what you think is going to happen, or what your opinions are, what your intuition is. We do have here the Queen of Cups. This was never an intention to quell things down. The martial law is to restore order, right? The Queen of Cups is to not restore order, to cause chaos. The top of the deck here is you have the 6 of Pentacles reversed, which means justice on the wrong side. Alright guys, I think we're pretty much done with today's video. Thank you for watching. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think. I'll see you all next time. Until then, peace out. I love you. I'll see you next time. Bye.